I got the news today about the dogs. How well they did when they got lost. Difference, like, not gonna need it. No, because it's next year. I don't know if this comes on. Budget. Said he was going to. I don't think Adam was. What did you say, Jim?
Adam, well, anyone.
Adam was. When Jake.
Haven't heard from him and he's not online just yet. I'll let you know if I see him join though.
All right. Where did you go? Yep, already.
Right now it's 4:30 on Tuesday, March 21st, 2023 at 4:30, actually 4:30 p.m. right now, and we are in the study meeting room right now in the multi-purpose room, and we have council basically is here. We have Don Christensen, Lars Knockfell, and Will Williams Weston, and Scott Harmon, and me. We are here at the table, and Ken is on Zoom, and we hopefully we're gonna see Jake here soon. Okay, and also we have the admin right here with us. So the item right here, the next item is approval of minutes, and we have this March 14, 2023. So we need that one for the motion and a second for that.
Motion to approve the minutes of March 14.
So we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Say all favors in this motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay, the vote was unanimous. Nico, if you see something on the screen, just please let us know. Okay,
Absolutely.
raise a hand or something. Okay, appreciate it very much. Item number 4 is the regular council meeting has been canceled for tonight. The proclamation declaration, the reading here is held in all policies. Anyone here is the one to read that one? Don, is it you?
I'll do it.
Okay, I'll put it out. Okay, good.
Is that for next week?
Yeah, they're gonna be next week, right? Done?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, be awesome. Ordinance 23-07, Craig Thomas. Before Craig Thomas gonna present it to us, is it Wayne, you have anything to say before he can come up here to take over the microphone?
I don't, I'm good. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so Greg, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Craig Thomas with the Neighborhood Services Division. I just want to also acknowledge that I've got Alex Kidd here from our Community Engagement Specialist, and also Kevin Nguyen. He is our Healthy West Valley Coalition Chairperson. So before you tonight is ordinance 2307. It's a code change to 3-10-600. It's in the Administrative Advisory Organization Code. I can spit that out. It's to recognize and formalize the Healthy West Valley Coalition as an official committee of West Valley City. Just to give you a little bit of background with the Healthy West Valley Coalition. I'm not sure if that's the next slide, but there we go. If you put on your thinking caps and go back a couple of years, back to 2018, before earthquakes and pandemics, the Healthy West Valley Coalition started meeting in 2018 in the fall. It was a group of concerned residents, organizations within the community, service providers interested in addressing the health of West Valley City residents and discussing how they can come together as a coalition and collaborate together and start working towards implementing or, starting the discussion and talking about how they can work together to do things. So over the past year, they have been coming together regularly since 2018, but over the past year, they've kind of come up with these why we serve, our vision, and our mission as a Healthy West Valley Coalition. It's basically, it's a coalition of a group of people coming together to talk about health in West Valley City and how they can do things together. The membership of the coalition is quite expansive. This really doesn't do it justice because if you think about Salt Lake County alone, we've got the libraries, we've got the health department, obviously the health department. We've got the libraries, the health department, senior services, youth services, a lot of different divisions within the health department as well. Kind of the same with the University of Utah Health. Many different divisions within the U Health is at the table as well talking. But you'll notice that we have faith-based groups, we have council members that come to the meetings. So it's a great discussion and dialogue that happens in their monthly meetings. Over the past couple of months, they've kind of been trying to restructure and organize as a coalition. And so they have pinpointed 3 focus areas that they want to focus on this year related to health, education, and access, mental health, and data advocacy and funding. So they have subcommittees organized, running, talking about these things together. So why is it important? Essentially, it's for some consistency with the coalition so that they are, if I think back in my years here, we've had a council member that was interested in something, that council member leaves, and then that effort kind of dissolves. This gives it some consistency, also gives it efficiency with city staff support. The finances, it opens them up to additional funding sources as an official body under the umbrella of the city. Validity, also, giving them that backing of the city, not just a group of people meeting in a room. And then they really feel like this will give them a little bit better voice with benchmarks and outcomes to talk about. So what are the benefits of having them as a committee to the city? Networking. We've seen that since 2018. They're coming together, they're talking, they're creating that network of organizations talking about health and trying to figure out what they can do, if they can pull resources, number 3, to expand how they do things by utilizing all the resources together. The long-term impact, and then obviously the community self-image of having a West Valley Healthy Coalition, Healthy West Valley Committee. So that's basically what the committee is about. Any questions?
The council has any question for him? I have one. How old was your coalition?
They started meeting in 2018.
2018.
Yeah, 2018. What did I say? 2018, yes.
We kept going through the pandemic and everything.
Yeah, they functioned through the pandemic. We just pivoted and like you met online through Zoom.
It's growing pretty well.
It still grows. We have active people seeking opportunities to participate in the coalition. So we have people coming and going a little bit, but the energy behind the group is actually pretty dynamic, and groups are really interested in coming to the table and participating.
Okay.
Mayor Lang has a comment when you're.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So I see on a later slide that there's been a grant application for $8,000 from Get Healthy Utah. Does this allow that money to come into the coalition better?
So those were slides that I prepared just in case I need to talk about the proclamation. They did receive an $8,000 grant through Get Healthy Utah last year. The council said to go ahead with that. The city made application on behalf of the coalition for that $8,000. Get Healthy Utah has been providing us technical support a little bit and some training. But the required grant activities are, the health lunch checklist that was mentioned in the proclamation itself, and having that organization, that structure. So we're meeting all those requirements to fulfill the grant.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you.
Next one, we have a resolution 23 Dash 34, Eric Rondum, is that, you want to say something before you?
Yes, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
I'm not even actually sure Eric is doing this. Is it you, Dan?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Good afternoon, Dan Johnson, West Valley City Public Works. We're here to present we'd like to purchase a variable width spreader box. And I'll explain what that is. So for 25 plus years, the Public Works Department has self-performed slurry seal on our subdivision streets, which is it's basically a mixture of aggregate or rocks and an asphalt oil emulsion that we place, and then it dries in the sun, and then in 3 to 5 hours you can drive on it. And it's really a good solution for subdivision street pavement maintenance. But we're actually, this year, we're going to add micro surface, which is a different product to our repertoire of pavement treatments. And micro surface is a product that can be placed on main roads, higher speed roads, and it behaves a little bit differently in that it doesn't evaporate to brake. It's a chemical brake, so you can actually drive on it in about an hour, and you can use it on main roads. And so, but the only difference is we can use the same trucks that we have for slurry seal, but we cannot use the same spreader box that we have for slurry seal. And so this spreader box has augers in it that distributes the material more evenly. And so, and then it actually, with micro surface, you can stack it. They say stack it. Basically, you can fill ruts with it, and so you're going to leave the road with a bit of a smoother ride than we found it, and you don't get that with slurry seal. Slurry seal is basically one rock thick. So this box is about $60,000, and so we'd like your authorization to purchase it.
Jake joined us. I just want to.
Okay, thank you. Is there any question for him?
So we already have the trucks. We don't need anything additional. Nope. We have the same trucks, and we'll really just either add this to the beginning or the end of our slurry seal season, because it's a different oil. And so we'll store it in the same tanks that we have, and it's actually the same aggregate, same rock. It's just a different oil. And then we can use the same trucks, and the spreader box can actually be used on slurry seal as well. So it's likely that this box will just be used for everything, but they may choose to use the other box.
Remind me, it seems like a couple of months ago, we leased some equipment for a week. To
Yeah.
the E-Center.
Yes. Yeah, that was a sprayed product. And we were trying that out, and we actually leased it from Berg Camp. And it's a different type of a product. That's a preservation product that really acts as a sunscreen on pavements to keep to prevent oxidation and to seal the surface, to keep water out. And we did place it on the Maverick Center and a couple of subdivision roads as a test. And we've decided, I don't think we're not going to purchase that truck. Didn't feel like it's going to be that valuable to us. We place the same product every year with a contract that we bid using a sprayed application, but the truck that we tried out was basically is smeared all over the road, and it's kind of drags it all over the place. It's kind of messy, and we feel like the sprayed application is a little bit cleaner, and we get the same result. And it's not we don't really have the capacity from a personnel standpoint to take on another element of service that really could only be used for part of the year. So.
Any more questions for him? Not. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. Wayne, we have 4 items on a consent agenda right here. So look at very much a warranty D. Is there anything else you want to say in here?
Maybe just to generally comment on that. So yeah, all 4 of them have to do with items in the 2023 asphalt overlay project.
Okay.
None of them are unusual, and all of them are in sort of the normal dollar amount. So nothing unusual.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it very much. And then now to turn the time over to Lincoln. Wayne, you want to say something before Lincoln take over?
Just we're glad to have Lincoln here, and fairly happy, I would imagine, to have the legislative session over with and ready to absorb the implications of what has happened.
Hopefully mostly positive implications. Thanks, Wayne, for the introduction. We can all take a deep sigh of relief. The legislature's out of session. You wives, families, children can come back out. No more harm can be done. This year, just wanted to give you kind of a quick top line on what occurred during the legislative session. When you put it in kind of magnitude of what it is, it's pretty amazing what they actually accomplish. This year, they contemplated just short of 1,000 pieces of legislation. I think it was 963 bills in 45 days and balanced a $30 billion budget. So when you take that kind of into consideration, you realize how quickly they're moving on several very significant policy issues, as well as all of the kind of embedded budget decisions that have to be made in order to balance a $30 billion budget. It's a pretty daunting task. And when I say in 45 days, keep in mind, they're taking weekends off. So that's actually getting done in 33 working days. There was actually an article that came out immediately following the legislative session that kind of did an analysis of how long they were spending on each piece of legislation. On average, they were spending just shy of 10 minutes through the entire process. So that includes the committee hearing process, the floor debates, voting, all consideration was just shy of 10 minutes on each piece of legislation. So when you think of the implications, which many of you do, when it comes to the implications here at the city, you can realize kind of how much they rely on our partnership with them as they contemplate legislation, making sure they're aware of issues that are important to us as a city and other stakeholders that are involved. So thank you all for your participation in the process and supporting the legislative team as we go up and advocate on behalf of West Valley City. In regards to the city, I think we had a pretty successful year. I'll go through a couple of issues, but before I do that, I want to let you know that we will be meeting with each individual department head to specifically go through items that were passed by this legislature that will affect their department. Bills do become law at the first part of May, so I believe May 4th is the date this year. It's the normal effective date for legislation. The governor still has a few more days left to sign pieces of legislation. He has until the first part of April until he signs those bills. And then 30 days after that, those do become law. So it's a pretty quick process by which we have to have all of our departments up to speed on things that they may need to change in terms of both their processes and policies as it relates to their departments. So we will be scheduling those meetings with the individual departments and going over those issues. For the purposes of the meeting tonight, I just wanted to kind of touch on a few kind of key policy issues that we mentioned during several of our weekly updates. So first and foremost, something that's always top of mind for West Valley City is the issue of homelessness and the way in which the legislature interplays with that policy issue with West Valley City. So this year, House Bill 499 did pass the legislative process based on feedback that was provided by West Valley City. I think we landed that bill in a pretty good spot. There were a couple of components related to that. One was the notion of when we could call Code Blue and what Code Blue looks like for individual cities. And Code Blue, if you don't recall earlier conversations, is when we have extreme cold events within the Salt Lake Valley area. What do we do with individuals where we don't necessarily have shelter capacity to handle those folks? And so it's working with community partners throughout the county to come up with a strategy to make sure that we aren't leaving individuals out on the streets in extreme cold events. What was fortunate about that process, early on in the legislative process, the legislature wanted to establish all those policies as how cities, the county, and other stakeholders would handle those events. Instead, what they did is require that each county establish a task force. That task force does include representation from West Valley City to establish a process by which we handle those Code Blue events. So it will identify with our input community locations where individuals can go in the case of these extreme cold events, what the policies and procedures would be in those extreme cold events to make sure that it's more nuanced on a countywide basis as to how that's going to look and what's going to occur in those areas. There was also some provisions in there that restricted our ability to enforce camping ordinances during those events. That language actually came out, and there was a provision added that required that any municipality that participates in the mitigation funding that occurs as a part of this whole strategy, that they have to be enforcing their camping ordinance. And if they fail to enforce their camping ordinances, they would not be able to participate in mitigation funding for hosting a homeless resource center or homeless shelter within their community, which I know has been a big issue for us as we've been working with our neighboring jurisdictions who at times have been a little lax potentially on enforcing their own camping ordinance. And we have some kind of spillover effect that comes of that. Additionally, they set up a process to evaluate additional shelter locations for temporary shelters or the winter shelter process. So similar to what we did in last year's exercise, the county with stakeholders, including West Valley, will come up with a strategy for additional resource centers in the Salt Lake Valley after we get a number from the state of Utah as to how many beds we need to accommodate. I know we'd had several conversations about a way in which we could maybe proactively address this issue as West Valley City, and with the West Valley team, we have met with Senator, I keep calling him Senator Niederhauser, with Wayne Niederhauser to talk further about that concept. If there was a way in which we could kind of proactively be a part of that solution with some consideration on the back end for not hosting a future permanent or temporary shelter site. And so those conversations will be ongoing. And we'll start pretty soon. The state has to give us numbers by the end of March as to how many beds that we're going to need to accommodate by the end of next winter. And then that task force has to actually come back by August with some additional information on how we plan on addressing the winter shelter needs for 2024. So that's kind of the thrust of most of that legislation. One thing that our team also worked on was making sure that we get credit for temporary housing that's mitigating the need for additional homeless resource housing within the county. And so, as you know, we pay into the mitigation fund as West Valley City currently. There's now actually a process by which we can apply for credits back for any kind of temporary shelter housing that we do have in the city, which we do have several qualifying potential housing developments within the city that would give us some credit back for what we have to pay into the mitigation fund. So I think there's some really positive things that came out, as is always the case on this issue. Still a lot of work to be done. I don't think the work is ever going to end on this issue, but I think we left ourselves in a very good and workable position moving into 2023 and 2024. Any questions on the homelessness issue? And then I'll jump into a couple of the other lighter issues.
Lincoln,
Yes, Mayor.
was there any interest in going forward with a code red for the summer for St. George and different areas like that when it gets to 110?
So what the bill did require is that counties of the first class as well as counties of the second class come up with a strategy for both what they call in code blue. They did not specifically call out code red, but I know St. George and Washington County are planning on having some sort of code red effort, even though it was not specifically articulated or required by statute.
Okay, thank you.
So that would be the one last piece, is we will now have partnerships from Davis, Weber, Utah, and Washington counties in terms of being a part of, if you'll call it, the solution on homelessness, where prior to that, this really was kind of landing all in Salt Lake County's lap and the jurisdictions located within Salt Lake County. The legislation also did contemplate that those adjoining counties do participate in the planning effort and identify potential shelter locations within their jurisdictions for both the temporary need as well as the permanent need on homelessness as well. So we can, for lack of a better term, kind of spread out some of the impacts associated with the issue that we're all trying to deal with. So I think in the end, it turned out to be a pretty good piece of legislation for us. Secondarily, kind of moving to some of the infrastructure, and I'll call them economic development issues as it relates to infrastructure, almost an unprecedented year in terms of infrastructure investment. The state, through both surface transportation investment as well as water resource investment, invested nearly $2 billion into public infrastructure programs and projects throughout the state. Many of these are going to be operated as grant programs. While I know that we don't do much in the area of water conveyance, we do a fair amount in the area of transportation, and with nearly $1 billion worth of additional transportation investment, some of that coming through debt restructuring, but also some coming in new investment, there will be plenty of opportunities for us to work with Dan and his team on some potential opportunities coming this year. Most notably was $45 million annually going into what they're calling an active transportation network. So these would be transportation networks where we're trying to remove people from surface streets and get them into trail type systems that are serving a transportation need. So not necessarily a recreational need, but a transportation need. They have allocated $45 million on an annual basis for those types of programs. There's actually a meeting of the Transportation Commission on Thursday that I'll be going to, where they're going to start setting the guidelines of how we participate in those programs. Following that, I'll be sitting down with Dan and his team to make sure that we avail ourselves of those opportunities where they may exist within the city as well. So some pretty unprecedented investment, both in transportation as well as in water infrastructure. To the extent we have any interest in the water infrastructure, a few programs such as the Flip Your Strip, secondary metering and other type programs were also pretty heavily funded this year. So we'll be working with our teams on any of those opportunities, most notably to make sure that our citizens are aware of those opportunities if they have interest in moving forward with any of those sorts of programs as well. So a pretty big investment opportunity in that public infrastructure. Pivoting now to economic development, there was about $80 million that was allocated into various economic development programs, many of which were identified to support the manufacturing industries, some of which are located here in West Valley City. And so again, working with our economic development team to make sure businesses located in West Valley City that may qualify for some of these programs are made aware of these grant opportunities and programs for manufacturing modernization, reduction of water utilization, a host of different ways in which they can improve air quality, water quality, or water conservation, as well as manufacturing modernization, are all grant opportunities that potentially some of our businesses can avail themselves of as well. So we'll be working with the economic development team on many of those grant opportunities. And then coupled with that was a fairly significant investment in recreational infrastructure within the state. Nancy and her team just completed an application to apply for some additional recreational dollars that will go to park systems here in West Valley City last week. We've been actively working with her team on those grant applications, and there will be many more of those to come as we continue to move forward. Like I said, that some of this will kind of dovetail into what Dan's doing with his team on active transportation. But I think the real takeaway as it comes to economic development and infrastructure is there's going to be a lot of opportunities, not only for us as West Valley City, but certainly for the business community within West Valley City to take advantage of some of the work that the legislature has done this year. So we'll be working with those teams very actively to make sure that they're made aware of those and can get that information out to the public as we deem appropriate as the city. Any questions on that? And if not, I can move to the next item that I'll quickly touch on.
Go back to the one is, I'm sorry, Lincoln, maybe I'm behind a little bit. Go back to the one homeless. Did they sit down study how many homeless people here in Utah and how do you reduce that number? Did they talk about that?
So the homeless resource coordination group, which is headed by Wayne Niederhauser, is required to come up with that number that will be provided to the group by the end of March. The way in which they come up with that number is working candidly with the groups that serve that population. So it's working with the groups that are already serving the population, trying to get an understanding from them. Obviously, this is a very difficult population to get your arms around in terms of a full count of who is truly homeless and kind of systematically homeless, if you will. But those groups in coordination with the Homeless Coordinating Center is supposed to be providing that number to us to use as the baseline for additional homeless shelter needs.
Any question? Okay, go ahead.
The last piece I'll touch on is both justice courts and public safety. In the area of justice courts, this was another major topic for us as we've made significant investments on kind of redoing our justice court center here in West Valley City. When a early piece of legislation did come out, it would have taken away all administrative authority from West Valley City on administering the justice court. It would have taken away the ability for us to appoint our justice court judge and a host of other things to kind of push the justice court system closer and closer to a state regulated and state managed court system, similar to what used to be called the circuit court system here in the state of Utah. Through the efforts of us and several of our partner stakeholders, we were successful in essentially defeating that bill. Ultimately, the bill that did pass really codifies what we're already doing here in West Valley City, codifies the process by which we pay our judges and establishes pay rates within the code that we're already following. It establishes the process by which we appoint those judges. It establishes the administrative regulatory structure that we have to use when we're administering the court system and administering the judge. Many of these things are already embedded within our current policies and procedures as we administer the justice court system. So took a very bad bill and made it a bill that really aligns with what we're already doing here in West Valley City, which is a significant win for us as West Valley, as we've run many very successful programs through that court system. It did reestablish a task force to study kind of the future of justice courts. We continue to work with the administrative office of the courts, as well as other stakeholders, to ensure that they understand kind of the unique nature that West Valley City Justice Court plays in the justice system with many of the programs that we're running. Almost uniformly, everyone is saying, regardless of what we do with justice courts, we recognize the uniqueness of West Valley City, and we'll continue to honor that uniqueness so that the programs that we're administering here in the city can continue to move forward. The last piece I'll touch on is public safety. I know there had been a lot of concern around traffic safety here in West Valley City, in ways in which we can better work with our state partners on enhanced traffic enforcement. While the legislature was still cautious about moving forward on any sort of photocop legislation, 2 bills did pass this legislative session that I think will help on specific pieces of infrastructure in West Valley. One was $3.5 million was appropriated to the Department of Transportation and the Department of Public Safety for enhanced enforcement measure on Bangerter Highway, certainly during the construction phase. So that's $3.5 million that will go towards enhanced enforcement during that construction phase on Bangerter. And additionally, it created there was another piece of legislation, Senate Bill 23, that allows us to work with the Department of Transportation and DPS on transitioning enforcement from local jurisdictions to state jurisdictions as it relates to major pieces of infrastructure within our jurisdictional boundaries. And so we'll be working with the police department to see if there's a way in which we can bolster the relationship between us and DPS on both Mountain View Corridor as well as on Bangerter Highway to help augment what we're already doing in terms of traffic enforcement on those 2 major corridors that have been problematic from us from a public safety standpoint. So 2 very kind of successful efforts and both getting us some additional resources, as well as kind of authorizing additional partnership opportunities to help share in that burden at the state level. So those were, again, 2 big wins. We continue to kind of scratch our heads on what we need to be doing on photocop. There seems to be some hesitancy on moving forward with that technology for the concerns that some jurisdictions would use it as candidly just revenue generation instead of actual traffic safety. So still have some political hurdles that we need to get over on that one. But I do think as a near term, we have some solutions that we can pursue and see if there are some additional opportunities. So that's the quick and dirty update. With nearly 600 bills passed, there's a lot more that we could cover. And I want you to be assured that we'll be working with the individual departments on covering all of those issues and making sure that everyone's up to speed on any sort of regulatory changes that we need to be making as the city. And with that, Tom, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yeah. Do you have any question for him? Go ahead. Okay, I have one. The justice court right there, is that we still covering Magna?
Are we still what?
Are we still covering Magna?
Government Magna? Yeah, we still
Court cover Magna?
Yeah,
Oh, we don't do Magna cases. Is that what you're asking?
yeah.
No,
No.
I don't think so. Eric could speak to
Yeah.
what we do more specifically.
Eric,
I know we've had conversations in the past
Yeah,
about taking
we
over a
had it.
caseload from the county,
Right.
which would have included the Magna case. I don't think we're doing that unless I'm just blanking out here.
So-
Eric? You're on mute, sorry.
we
Or your
can hear
microphone's
you.
not working.
That better?
Yeah,
We're only doing our cases that occur within West Valley City. There was some discussion many county mayors ago about consolidating some of those jurisdictions, and that never came to fruition. And so we are just prosecuting West Valley City Class B, Cs, and infractions in our Justice Court, and Class As downtown.
okay. Yeah, we talked about that last, I don't know how long ago, but we talked about,
We have had a few conversations.
Yeah. okay, you want to follow up with that? Good, thank you. Any question for him? If not, you did good, buddy.
Thanks for the time.
Next one is form of government here. last time we talked about, we're gonna add one more at large, so we don't mess anybody business. And we're gonna do like 2-term mayor. So, Mayor, what do you think about it? We're gonna put this one, what you guys think, well, the council think about it, we can put this one on agenda next week and, vote up and down.
I think this is a huge decision that we should seriously study. And not just have an up or down vote next week, but really consider it. I sent an email just a few minutes ago to everyone. That's a link to a report from West Jordan. West Jordan had our form of government, and in 2017, the council was trying to decide whether to put it on the ballot to change to a strong mayor. And they formed an ad hoc committee of residents to study the issue. And their report is the link that I sent to you. They recommended that they don't change the government, but West Jordan went ahead and did it anyway. But I found it helpful to read those comments, and I thought about their process. And maybe we should add more to this process than just deciding next week up or down to put it on the ballot.
Yeah, I talked to the mayor out there yesterday at another meeting, and he said, I still have a chief of staff that does all the daily work, runs everything. He was city manager before, but now he's chief of staff.
Oh, here, let me respond back to you, Lux. We send this stuff out probably been about a month already, over a month. I think we have multiple times we talked about this before. So I personally think we have enough time to talk about this, not for the last minute, just send an email to us. That's the first one. The second one is that we always have the opposition. To be honest with you, West Jordan, they barely made it. Yeah, they have I don't give the name here, but I know very well the number of people they spoke against for that, and also the number of people they spoke for that. But now they're doing well. To be honest with you, yeah, it is not only one person is came to the city hall and spoke something against, but multiple people, and as people they have a good name in the community too. But I think that's very normal. To be honest with you, very normal. But since after that, 2017 until now, and they run well. It's not only for West Jordan, but Murray, for Taylorsville, for other multiple cities here in our county. They have done well. They're doing well. Here I can give more detail about this. They have some budget they send over to a group of people, and that group of people came up to the podium and spoke against what they were planning to do. Also, they have a budget, as a group of people, they have a budget to send out messages to the people in the city, in West Jordan City, and basically against this policy, against this decision they were thinking about they're gonna make. And I think anywhere we go everywhere, they always have an opposition. I think it's the best for our city. And then there's right here, the formula right here we have is a 1 at large and 2-term mayor, because why we don't want to have a lifetime mayor like Sandy. It's so long, like Tom Dellen is been there for over 20 years. And here we have only 2 terms. That mean we need to have more fresh blood, more people innovative, and people they want to come here and make the city and do something with the city, I think that's great that we need to have two terms. We don't want to have a long time like Sandy, but go back, go ahead, Don.
You're saying these things like we've already made decisions, and I don't remember making any decisions like that.
No, I'm not talking about making decision. I'm talking, we send this stuff out for over a month or probably over a month, 6 weeks already.
But
But we haven't spent
we
much
haven't
time
spent
talking
much
about
time
it.
talking about it. I don't remember any of those decisions like the third at-large person and things like that. I don't remember when we made any of those.
Well, we talk about it. We talk about it, but
We didn't
Dennis,
make any
you,
decisions.
maybe we didn't get into like that conversation, but we talked about this one before.
I don't remember it.
Yeah, we did. But maybe you didn't, maybe you didn't speak up or something, but we brought it up multiple times. We did bring it up multiple times.
I
Did
don't
we?
recall
Yes, we did.
discussing term limits and some of those details either. So, I mean, this is something that we can't just jump into, even if communications or correspondences have been happening over the last couple of weeks. It's definitely something worth investigating further. I like the idea of the ad hoc. I brought it up last time in terms of a straw poll or some kind of a gauge beforehand. And I know that's just like you said, Tom, I agree with you. There's always going to be people on both sides of that. But this isn't something that I'm comfortable with making a decision on based on my own personal opinion. I also represent the folks that elected me to be here to speak and to listen to what they have to say as well. So just a question in terms of procedural, action. With the public hearings that are being held and the timeline for the resolution passing, let's say we had 2 public hearing meetings and it was resoundingly no, let's not change. Do we have the ability to pull that back off, or is our decision to put this on the ballot kind of firm regardless?
The good question, Jake. Here I will give
Let's
you.
have Eric. Can Eric respond to that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Eric Patterson.
Eric, are you there?
Yes, I can respond to that. Thank you. The 2 hearings within 45 days are for that exact purpose, because you can rescind the resolution up to 60 days. So I should have put that in the thing that's on the screen. So you pass the resolution, you have 2 public hearings within 45 days, and then you can rescind it within 60 days. After 60 days, it's on the ballot. Does that make sense?
Thank you. That answers my question.
60
Yes.
days before, 60 days before the ballot for election day, or is it 60 days after we vote to put it on the ballot?
60 days after you pass the resolution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one I wasn't clear on as well. Thank you.
Jake, here I just want to share with you and with the council too. That go back to the city, our neighbor here, because they have the funnel, the money go through a group of people, and they very much came to the public hearing and they spoke against the decision that the West Jordan they were making at that time. So that means the number of people, citizens out there, they don't know, or maybe they didn't have that kind of like in that group, or they didn't have a chance to be in that group of people. But they will, and this case basically we just still waiting for the people they vote, people in our city to vote yes or no, because we just give a signal we're gonna go with this direction, but the result is based on the citizen here in this city. We're not gonna make decision, okay, yeah, I want to do that right away, want to do that right away. No, the citizen here in this city, they will make that decision for us.
It's still a really important decision.
I know
for
that's
us.
really important. I agree with you about
Put
that.
it on the ballot.
Yeah, I'm not arguing with you, Tom, at all. I mean, there's pros and cons to all of these different forms of government. And so for me, I guess I just go back to when I was first elected, and I would venture to guess that every single one of us in this room, until we actually got involved and had this mandate to work within this form of government, I'd be willing to say that most of us actually had no clue about what that actually entails and what the actual differences are between different types of governments. Just an average neighborhood resident out here, I didn't even know, what these different forms were and what the differences are. So it is up to the citizenry to vote. That is absolutely their right, but I think it's also responsible and accountable for us to be able to at least inform folks as to what they're voting on and let them make their own decision based on their opinions and conscience. So that's the only reason why I'm asking for additional something, whether that be a study committee, whether that be meetings, because these two public meetings have to be held within 45 days of passing a resolution. Doesn't preclude us from hosting our own town halls outside of that. I mean, there's no reason why we can't be discussing this and helping folks understand that this is something that we're even considering putting on a ballot before we actually do so.
Thanks, Jake. Just a question for Eric again, or maybe Nicole, maybe do you know what the deadline is that we would have to make a decision on to have it on the ballot?
There is a deadline to pass the resolution. I can't remember what that exact,
It's the one I've got on the
23rd.
sheet up here. It's the 23rd of August. Yeah, that's the last possible day,
For the
that-
resolution.
yeah, that you could pass the resolution to get it on the ballot. It can be before that, but it couldn't be after that.
Eric, is that the final passing or do we have the public hearings after that?
You have the public hearings after that.
So it's got that 60 days to go into effect and then it gets printed on the ballot.
Yep.
Okay.
So
I don't think we should put this on the ballot. I just wanted to tell you my opinion and why I have that opinion. I think that we have a great form of government and it's been working very well for our city. It's good to have an administrator who the 7 elected officials can select and fire when that administrator is no longer serving our city well. That through that process, we're able to find someone who is qualified as an administrator, as a manager of people, as someone who's trained legally in the law and in how to manage a city, someone who has experience. These are all things that I'm afraid we would not get with an elected mayor. We might get lucky one time or 2 times out of 30 years. But for the most part, I'm not convinced that we would get that. If you just want to look at our last 2 presidents of the United States and who you sometimes end up with when that executive office is left to the people. I think that the council would lose a lot of authority with a strong mayor. And it's better when 7 elected officials can consider the policies and the individual and make changes quickly if needed. With the mayor, and if the mayor's not serving our city well, we have to wait till the next election. We could do an impeachment, but how many of those have you seen that actually work? Another thing to consider is with an elected mayor, I would hope that they would hire an administrator to help with the city. But then we're paying a full-time mayor and a full-time city manager. And doubling the work and the pay. Our neighboring city, Salt Lake City, has a strong mayor. And I wonder how many people work in the mayor's office. Anybody have an idea? I would venture to say that it's probably 20 times as many that work in our city manager's office. At least. We transfer a lot of the authority of the council to the strong mayor if we change this government. And I think that 7 heads are better than 1. And we can make better decisions as a council with 1 employee, our city manager, that we can hire or fire. Another thing to consider is this will make the executive administrator a political office that will make decisions based on politics. Maybe we'll have a great mayor that doesn't do that. And I'm sure we could, but we won't have it every time. We'll have decisions made based on what will get that person the most votes. And it's nice to have a city manager that makes decisions based on what's really best for our city, not necessarily what will get that person the most votes. I think that that it's too big of a risk to change our government. I think that Jake is right, that a lot of our residents don't really understand our form of government. And I think that it's going to be easier with the sound bites to convince them to vote for a strong mayor than to vote to keep our council manager form of government. So I'm afraid that if we do vote to put it on the ballot, that even if it's not the best decision, that's what the residents will choose.
In talking to the mayor in West Jordan, before they moved to their current form of government, they had several city managers, kind of like rotating on a yearly basis almost. And you can't conduct and keep momentum of a city going if you've got the leader of the city continually changing because the council didn't like him or her. And all of those council members that were in that rotational term with the city managers weren't reelected. So they were the ones that were keeping the city momentum going, and suddenly the momentum stops because you've got all new members. And so that's one of the things that they found. I don't remember, I think our first year or 2 years, we were a different form of government than we are now.
The commission form.
Commission form, and then we moved to what we have, and we've had that for the last 40 plus years. And I guess my thoughts can be summed up in an old saying that says, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
We've been very fortunate to have a great city manager for over 20 years that has kept our
the
staff
momentum going.
working well and getting better every year and learning from things that have happened, even learning from mistakes. And with a mayor with 2-term limit, at least every 8 years, we're gonna have a new administration, which could mean a new chief of police, a new Parks and Rec director. And maybe those will be political friends of the mayor, because it'll be up to the mayor to decide who those people are, and it'll be a political decision. And I'm afraid that that will not serve our city well. I think what we've had has been serving our city very well, even if it's a little bit harder for our residents to understand. But that's why they elect us. They elect us to study the issues, and because they don't have time to study all the issues that we have to. They elect us to study the issues and make the decisions that will hopefully be best for our city in the long term. I'm afraid that going to a strong mayor will please the people who are seeking for power. And it won't be best for our city in the long run.
Lux, let me respond back with Aurora here, what you said. Jake, PDC Manu, he mentioned about gonna study, do some study and can make decision. I agree with that, but then it basically you already made your decision already. You said you don't want to go with our form of government. You brought up about Salt Lake City right here versus, multiple, or maybe over 20 times, or maybe her office, maybe more than we have here, or people that work there more than people we have in the city hall here. But you don't use the other cities like maybe Murray and West Jordan, Taylorsville. Other city is that they're very cohesive. They work well. But you use right here, it's Salt Lake City. It's right here, very expensive city. Two cities, very expensive governments right here. It's Salt Lake City and Sandy City. But other cities, they run it so well. Why? Because majority is other cities here like Taylorsville, Murray, West Jordan. Those cities, they have a people, they work for a council member before and they go into mayor. So they don't know how to work together with the council, and they work well. It's wonderful. Okay. You're talking about more than one person. That's not true. The mayor working with the council, right here, the council color legislature. And the mayor right here is the balance, check and balance, loves.
Exactly.
Yeah, check and balance. It's not like, it's a mayor can go out and make decisions, spend money, X, Y, Z, ABCs. They cannot do that. Yeah, the group of people right here, 70 people right here. So they work fair and balanced. And you comparing about our cities like the country. It's our country, it's a big scale. Yeah, and right now, basically, it's just very chaotic in our city, in the country right now about Republican, Democrat. But here, our city is very, very unique city. And basically, they work together so well the last 20 years, the last whatever, in the 1980 until today. You look at the history, people, they become mayor in this city. Basically, they work for the council before they became mayor. That's the history. See right there, the rotation, Don says, the rotation about, the city manager. The thing is, they just there recently and try to fix something there, try to make it happen and try to serve their city. This city is, the mayor, in this city, they live here. The mayor live here, he's live here, and he knows the things here in this city. Okay. And it's 2 terms, only 8 years. And most people here in this county, you can see that right here, West Jordan, Murray, Taylorsville, and other cities, South Salt Lake City, people, they work for the council. So they know the system, they know how to serve the people. I'm sorry about that, Wayne, but I'm gonna say that very clearly. The city manager also, they Wayne, they're doing well, but if somewhere hire him with a higher salary, a better salary better benefit, he can move somewhere. But the mayor just stay here. That's the risk we are taking.
So how many mayors have those cities had in the time that we've had the same city manager?
But the thing is, they run well.
And we run well.
See? Yeah, they run well. It's only, I said, only two cities here are very expensive. The city is a Sandy and Salt Lake City. Sandy, you know that the story that recently, she not in that the council. And she lost only a few votes, if you study about that. And people, we understand the people, they're not from the council, from outside, they came in, they have to protect the build a bunker. Try to protect themselves. But the people, they work in the council, they know they work together well with the council. They don't have to do that. And that's better.
If I can,
So,
I like Jake's idea of a town hall. I'm in favor of passing an ordinance to put it on the ballot and go through the process of the 2 public meetings and a town hall and see what comes of that. That's part of our study meeting, really, is to get public feedback and so I'm in favor of moving forward to that step with the option, if we don't feel good about it, we can always pull it back. I really think the citizens should have it. I mean, if it was all up to me, they should have an option to vote on it. I understand they're not all gonna be well-versed in that topic, but to go 40+ years without having an option brought to them, I think it's time.
Yeah, Lars, I agree with many of your points, but I keep coming back to giving the residents an option. Making sure that the education is available, the information is available to the residents for them to study up on it and understand the 2 differences. But I feel like I agree with Councilman Harmon, and putting that option in front of our residents would be the right thing to do. And just other comments, somewhat separate, but you mentioned we're paying a full-time city manager and a part-time, we're paying for a part-time city mayor. Having been in this for just over a year and seeing how much the mayor is, how much time she puts into it, I think she's full-time being paid part-time. That's somewhat of a separate issue. But I would support putting this before a regular meeting and then moving forward with the meetings and town hall and so forth.
Mayor, how about you, Mayor? We didn't hear anything from you.
That's because if I talk much, I cough. I agree with the fact that I think the residents should have the opportunity to discuss or to decide this issue. Education is going to be a big part of it. And I'm not sure how we go about that yet, but I think we can come up with a good solution with town halls and just information. I mean, the West Valley newspaper put an article out, and I've gotten a lot of response to that article that this was maybe coming about, and it's all been in favor of. And so just hearing that leads me to believe that they need the opportunity to make that choice. So that's it from me.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we have enough vote to move forward with the ordinance, right, Scott? For study.
Think so.
Okay. And
So what will the ordinance say?
Scott,
Well, let's study it next week about the form of government we want to submit in the ordinance. Can we do that? I think that's probably the next step, is just to hammer out, what form do we want to present on the ballot?
And I thought we were gonna go with, I thought the consensus or the majority was with the town hall. To give feedback before we pass an ordinance.
Well,
Am I hearing that
I
wrong?
think it can be done at the same time during that 45 days. And I'm okay delaying passing an ordinance for a couple of weeks so that we can kind of gear up for the next 45 days, because that's critical that we kind of have some things planned. The public meetings, the town hall, if we want to do some other sort of survey. But
Do we want public input into which style of government?
The town hall, you want to do it right here, this room, or what you want to do?
I think we do it in
Oh, they have a deal.
council chambers.
Okay, I didn't see that.
So really the two changes would be council mayor, 6 council members, and council mayor, 7 council members. Is that right?
Right, 7.
And so maybe we could have a study session next week to, what's the difference? My eyesight's really bad. Is it between those two? And then 1st of April, we can have it on regular meeting.
All of the ones up there except 5-member council could end up in a deadlock. We have 7. We have to have 4 votes to pass. If we don't get 4 votes, it doesn't pass.
Is it
Some
7?
of those are even numbers except the last one.
Isn't the mayor, if it's
There's not a voting.
not a voting
voting.
member?
Mayor will be non-voting.
So the second one that I see right there is that the 7 council members. Is that right there? On the top? Is that you're talking about on?
No, I'm just saying everything except the last one, the 5-member council. But with the mayor non-voting, then
Yeah.
yes, we do have odd numbers except the 6-member council.
Right, right. So we're gonna pick 5 council member or 7 council member, but in this city here, should go with 7 council members.
Okay,
Because
so
we have,
it's 5 or 7. That's
Yeah.
The
basically-
size of the
so-
city depends on the size of the council.
Yeah, so I think that's probably our best option is the 7 council.
yeah,
3 at large, in a sense, the mayor isn't at large.
yeah, so 3 at large and 4 districts, yeah. Okay, all right.
So can we study next week? Maybe the plan, some dates for town halls and the public meetings. And then that'd be the first Tuesday in April, we can have it in regular meeting. Sound
Good.
good?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that's, it sounds like we got a votes. While I'm not super thrilled, I like Councilman Harmon's suggestion that we at least be intentional and reasoned about planning these out, inviting potential speakers or determining the format so that we can present this information objectively to as many people as we can. I do strongly agree with that. So thank you.
I think to keep us in informational status only and not taking sides, we probably ought to invite somebody from the league to make that presentation about the different styles of government.
I think we had it, right? With email, right? Correct?
We had it.
But last time.
The 160,000 population hasn't had it.
So like at the town hall, is that what you're
Town
talking about
hall,
in the public meetings?
Public
where
meeting.
we present both sides.
Yeah.
We gotta have somebody from the league to do that both sides rather than us.
No, that sounds good.
That's fine.
Because I think legally in something like this, the city can only give information. They can't take a side, can't take a stand. Isn't that right?
You can't spend public money if you're what you're
Yeah.
looking at is to campaign for one side or the other, but yeah, no.
So we can-
Absolutely, your political members can hold an opinion or express it one way or the other,
Yeah.
for sure.
So
But yeah, you
if-
can still have somebody come and do that.
I would just say a third party would be,
Sure.
And if we did a mailer or some sort of informational that went out to the citizens, it would be something like this.
yeah, could not take a stand.
It
on
wouldn't
it,
take a stand either way, it'd just be informational.
You know.
Eric, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you hear that, right?
Heard it all.
Okay, got it. Thank you. The next item right here is the number C, code enforcement, continue discussion. I think this one wait for our mayor. So she can be here in person and we can discuss more about this one. Is that okay with you guys? What do you think, Jake and Mayor?
If she can't really talk.
I would appreciate it if you waited till next week. I thought we made great progress last week. And I have good notes, but I just don't have a good speaking voice today.
Yeah, let's do it. How about Jake?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to waiting on that.
Okay, but can we add one more item here? Because the reason I want to add one more is the bus in Chesterfield. So we can add in one more item about the van, bus, RV trailers. Because recently, did you saw that on a email conversation back and forth about the bus in Chesterfield, homeless people? So I really want to put this one on our agenda with the code enforcement. We're gonna discuss next week too, so we can talk about that and try to figure out how to stop that or how to deal with that.
Is that part of the parking thing that we talked about 2 months ago with
I
the
don't think so.
heavy vehicle?
I think what you're referring to is a complaint we had a couple of weeks ago.
About
Is
the
that correct?
unlicensed bus.
Yeah, it's already gone, my understanding.
Seems like we've taken care of it, right?
But I saw the van on 24 and the 7th.
Oh, yeah, they actually, I did hear that they then moved it to the dude who, I can't remember his name, the gentleman who comes here in council meeting and says that we're enforcing things too strictly on him. They moved it over there.
Yeah, they move around. So that's what I want to put in here and see the ordinance we have and how we can tackle this.
That violated state laws rather than just our ordinances.
Are you talking about his activities on the property or the bus?
The bus.
I don't know about state law. It
The way I
definitely,
read it, it was unlicensed and
Yeah.
unregistered.
this all happened while I was gone, so I haven't read the
Which would be a
email, but I've been
state law.
briefed on the situation. It definitely violated our own ordinances for sure.
Unregistered vehicles fall under a different thing than code enforcement.
Yeah, I mean, that's a state violation for sure.
Yeah, also a lot of RV trailers. We have a problem in my district. I don't know about your district, but my district is there's a problem. People live there. That's a problem. So I want to bring that one up
You bring that up
on
on
this,
enforcement discussion next
Yeah.
week.
yeah, next week. So I see the ordinance and how we can fix with that current ordinance we have. Yeah, but we have a problem.
Just to kind of go along with that, I've thought again about code enforcement and demolition derby cars. And last week we said we're okay with it, but this week I'm thinking car cover is fine. They want to put a car cover on a demolition derby car. I just don't want a house full of derby cars now that we've said okay, so. So we'll talk about that next week.
Okay, so, yeah, we need the ordinance there. We can maybe email it to us and the current one we have, so we can take a look at it, and then we'll discuss more about that next week. Okay, also calendar.
I had a question on the calendar. On the 25th, there's a Save Kids Fair at the Mountain America Expo Center. How are we involved in that? Do we have like a booth or?
I'm not sure. Let me take a look real quick here, see if I know. We may have to get back with you. Chief,
COP was over here.
the COP what?
They go over here.
Oh, okay. Mountain American Expo Center. So I know we participate in a lot of different safety fairs. Sounds like this is one out there that our COP unit goes to.
Anything else? No? Okay, let's move on. New business is the potential future agenda items. Anyone has anything?
I do have something.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Mayor first.
So via an email, I think we have enough consensus to ask Mr. Pyle to ask Mr. Bunderson to engage in a letter. I'm trying to find the exact letter, wording.
Retention letter.
What did you say?
Retention.
Yes, a retention letter. Yes. Can we move forward with that and put it on a study and a voting next week? Would everybody support that?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, and Mr. Bunderson has the name, so we're good there. Thank you.
okay, Don.
She stole my thunder.
Okay, anything else? That's it? Okay, council reports.
One. I did go to the Western Growth Coalition yesterday. I went in with some ideas and they had already discussed them all and came up with the same solution I did, or a similar solution. Western Growth is pretty much fulfilled its original purpose and now will become more of just a legislative type influence. They will hold 4 or 5 meetings a year, depending on what we decide in November, which is our next meeting. There will be one legislature in November. There will be 2 or 3 during the legislature itself, the Saturday legislative roundups. And we will invite that's so they can do it to cover all of the different chambers of commerce. And so we'll invite the legislators to those, and then there will be a follow-up, kind of like Lincoln did for us today after the legislature. And some said they liked that follow-up because it was a kind of a winning lap, a victory lap celebration for them for passing bills. Had to remind them, in my experience, every victory lap ends in a burnout. They agreed, but maybe victory lap wasn't quite the word then. But that's how they're gonna proceed from here on. Representative Dunnigan was there and he mentioned that they had funded some of the southern portion of the Mountain View corridor become Mountain View Freeway. So they're doing the studies and getting ready to start putting in the center lanes. So
So
from the south,
so like Legacy Highway in the north and Mountain View down the south.
yeah. And he asked about connecting it into Saratoga Springs. I didn't tell him that I went down Mountain View Road into Saratoga Springs off of Redwood Road, because there's a Mountain View Road down in Saratoga Springs, which is almost directly south of where Mountain View corridor ends.
Yeah, I heard they cut into Eagle Mountain or somewhere there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's my report.
Good. Thank you, Don. Anybody
Just
else?
a, comment. I received a letter from a resident. I hope it's okay to bring up. Anyway, it was a handwritten letter, which you don't receive very often these days, and it was the father of the son or of the individual that passed away in Mountain View crash that had the large oil spill or diesel fuel spill. And he had asked, his son played, one of his favorite courses was the Ridge. And because his son doesn't have a graveside or any type of place to go and remember him, he had asked if he could place a memorial or plant a tree in his name at the Ridge. And so I put him in contact with the administration to see about doing that. It was just a kind of a heartwarming note from this resident. I can't imagine the grief that he was going through, but it's not that real.
Thank you. Scott. No. We went out, Will and I, we went out, visit the hospital things. Is that right?
University of Utah.
Yeah, that event, and we talked to a couple of people there, and so we thought it was a great meeting there. I left it early, but I believe we will stay there. So I had a good number of people there too. Then
The mayor showed up
later.
later.
Okay, got it. So the mayor, she went there too. Okay,
And I met with them on Wednesday when they met with the staff here.
oh, is that right?
And they did mention on Wednesday that they would not be opposed to seeing tracks extended out to the new hospitals. Just those are in there to
Mayor has
come up every now and then. 'Cause I know they did a lot with the talking to my wife when they did the BRT line down 35th. They did a lot of the infrastructure that would be needed for tracks down 35th. So we might have to talk to UTA about it a little more closely.
Thank you, Don. Mayor, are you gonna say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I spoke to Riley out at that presentation for the hospital. And they are going to forward to all the council members, kind of the slide presentation they showed Dawn on Wednesday. So she was gonna get it to Angel and then have her forward it to us. So that you all have it for your information.
Great. Thank you. Also, I was glad to hear they are, they were trying to hire more people here in West Valley City to work on at the hospital. So that's I think that's a big bonus there. That's great. Can see strategic discussion list right here. That turn over to you. Oh, when?
I don't have anything on that, sir.
No, okay. So I have a list right here.
Tom, can we wait and go over that next week?
Yeah, we'll do, Mayor. Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, we'll do it next week. Okay, last motion. No post meeting tonight, right? Not for me. No, okay, all right. We need the last motion for,
motion to adjourn.
so we are adjourned. Please say aye.
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 Yeah, we adjourn. No regular meeting